Most people completely missed what really happened to Agnes in this scene, and once you see it, you genuinely can't unsee it. Because what looks like a simple dentist visit in the Testaments is actually one of the darkest, most disturbing turning points in the entire story. And the show never says it outright. It makes you figure it out yourself. And that's exactly why it hits so hard. Here's the truth up front. The series strongly implies that Agnes is violated while she is unconscious during her second visit to Dr. Grove. Not shown, not confirmed in dialogue, but everything from the setup to the aftermath points in one direction. And once you connect those dots, the entire meaning of that storyline changes. Before we break down exactly how the show builds to that moment, let's quickly ground ourselves in where Agnes is mentally at this point in the story. Unlike characters who actively resist Gilead, Agnes is still trying to believe in it. She's been raised inside this system. She follows the rules. She trusts authority. She believes, at least on the surface, that the adults around her are there to guide and protect her. That's what makes this moment so devastating, because it doesn't just hurt her physically or emotionally, it destroys the foundation of everything she's been taught to trust. The first warning sign comes earlier, during her initial visit to Dr. Grove in episode 2. On paper, there is nothing unusual about the setup. He's a dentist, he's respected. More importantly, he's the father of her best friend, Becca. In Gilead, that connection matters. It signals safety, familiarity, trust. But the scene immediately begins to feel off, and not in a loud, obvious way, in a subtle, creeping way that mirrors Agnes's own discomfort. While preparing her for an X-ray, Dr. Grove makes an inappropriate comment about her body. It's quick, easy to miss if you're not paying attention. But then his hands linger when he adjusts the protective bib. Just a second too long, just enough to cross a line. And here's what's important. Agnes doesn't react. Not because it's okay, but because she doesn't fully understand what just happened. She's been conditioned not to question authority. So instead of alarm, what we see is confusion, unease, a feeling she can't quite name. That's the first crack in her reality. Now, this is where the writing becomes extremely deliberate. The show doesn't immediately escalate. It lets that discomfort sit. It plants the seed and waits. And when it comes back in episode 4, it doesn't feel random. It feels inevitable. The setup for her return to Dr. Grove is symbolic, and if you overlook it, you miss half the meaning. During a tea party, Agnes participates in a tradition involving a porcelain bride figurine baked into a cake. The idea is simple. Whoever finds it is the next to marry. On the surface, it feels almost innocent, but in Gilead, marriage isn't a romantic milestone. It's a transfer of control. It's the next stage of losing autonomy. Agnes bites into the cake and chips her tooth on the figurine. That moment is not just bad luck, it's storytelling. The bride, a symbol of her future role, literally causes her injury. And that injury forces her back into the care of the same man who already made her uncomfortable. In other words, the system itself pushes her back into danger. Now we return to Dr. Grove's office, and this time, everything is different. He insists on using anesthesia for the procedure. Again, nothing overtly suspicious on the surface, but the tone of the scene shifts. Agnes is more vulnerable now, not just physically, but emotionally. She's already experienced that earlier discomfort, even if she hasn't fully processed it. There's tension in the air, even if it's unspoken. As she begins to lose consciousness, the show gives us one critical detail. She sees Dr. Grove removing his coat. And then the scene cuts. That's it. No explicit action, no confirmation. Just that image. And this is where most viewers either catch what's happening or completely miss it. Because when Agnes wakes, everything appears normal. The procedure is done. There's no immediate sign that anything is wrong. No dramatic confrontation, no visible evidence. She goes home, life continues, and for a moment, it almost feels like nothing happened. But then comes the detail that changes everything. Agnes notices that her undergarment, something she had carefully tied earlier, is now undone in a way she didn't do herself. And that's the moment. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet realization. This is where the show becomes extremely unsettling, because it doesn't explain the conclusion. It forces both Agnes and the audience to arrive at it together, slowly, uncomfortably, piece by piece. And when it clicks, it's horrifying. Because the implication is clear. Something happened to her while she was unconscious, something she didn't consent to, something she couldn't stop. Now, it's important to understand how intentional this storytelling choice is, especially when you compare it to the original novel by Margaret Atwood. In the book, this situation is far more explicit. Agnes directly recounts being molested by Dr. Grove while she was conscious. There is no ambiguity, no subtlety. It's direct and undeniable. But the show takes a different route. Instead of showing the act, it focuses on the aftermath, the realization, and in many ways, that makes it even more powerful. Because the horror isn't just in what happened, it's in how Agnes understands it. She isn't given a clear narrative. She has to piece it together from fragments, from physical details, from memory, from instinct. And that process mirrors something very real, the way trauma is often experienced, not as a single clear event, but as a gradual, painful realization. This scene isn't just about Dr. Grove, it's about Gilead. Because Dr. Grove is not an outsider, he's not a criminal operating in the shadows. He's a respected member of society, a father, a professional, a man trusted within the system. And that's exactly the point. Gilead presents itself as a place of order, morality, and protection, especially for young girls like Agnes. But this moment exposes the biggest lie at the heart of that system. There is no protection. The danger isn't outside, it's built into the structure itself. Agnes can't report him. She can't accuse him. She doesn't even have the language or power to fully process what happened. Because in Gilead, men like Dr. Grove are protected by default. Authority shields them, reputation protects them, and silence keeps everything intact. That's what makes this scene so terrifying. Nothing happens to him. There are no consequences, no investigation, no justice. Life just continues. And that's where the real damage begins. Because for Agnes, this moment doesn't end in that room. It follows her. It reshapes her understanding of the world. Up until this point, she has been trying to be the good girl, following rules, trusting authority, believing that the system, however strict, exists for a reason. But this experience breaks something fundamental inside her. If someone she knows, someone she's supposed to trust, someone the system approves of can do something like this, then what else isn't true? That's the shift. And it's subtle, but it's powerful. You can see it in how Agnes begins to change afterward. There's hesitation in her behavior, a quiet distance, a growing awareness that safety isn't guaranteed even in places that are supposed to provide it. She doesn't suddenly become rebellious, but the seed of doubt has been planted, and once that seed is there, it doesn't go away. That's why this scene matters so much in the larger narrative. It's not just a disturbing moment, it's the beginning of Agnes waking up. From a storytelling perspective, this is incredibly smart. Instead of using shock value or explicit scenes, the writers rely on implication, symbolism, and psychological impact. They trust the audience to connect the dots, and in doing so, they make the experience more personal, more uncomfortable, more memorable. Because when you realize what happened, it feels like you discovered it, not like it was handed to you. And that's exactly the kind of storytelling that sticks with people. The kind that sparks discussion. The kind that makes viewers go back and rewatch scenes looking for details they missed. But here's the key takeaway and the reason this moment is so important to understand. This wasn't just an isolated incident. It was a turning point. The moment Agnes begins to see Gilead for what it really is, not the safe, structured world she was raised to believe in, but something far more dangerous, something that hides its worst truths behind rules, rituals, and authority. So when you look back at that dentist scene, don't see it as a side plot or a background moment. See it for what it really is, the quiet moment where everything starts to fall apart.